Mr. Terrific is a personal favorite superhero of mine, who I think is very underrated, and I think maybe one of the reasons why that is because he lacks much of a villain gallery. The only one you probably know of is Roulette, and the character isn't really a Mr. Terrific villain anymore. She was initially introduced to be one, but the character has evolved to be more of a villain for, well, anybody. However, there's another villain of his who you might know of, only because he's intended to be the polar opposite of Mr. Terrific, Mr. Terrible, who brands himself with the phrase foul play. He's also the definition of a cameo character. He does barely anything, just cameos in the background. Yet, I think it could be more. Also, there was a second Mr. Terrible, but that's a completely different character with a cube head. He's still a Mr. Terrific villain, but he's from a different universe and is not at all related to this Mr. Terrible. This Mr. Terrible is a villain first introduced in the Villains United series from 2005, run by Gail Simone. Unlike the super smart Mr. Terrific, Mr. Terrible is an idiot. He's labeled as white trash and uses T-squares opposed to T-spheres. Also, shouldn't they be called T-cubes, not T-squares? Because they're cubes. They're a three-dimensional shape. That would be like calling the T-spheres T-circles. His first appearance was in Villains United issue 5, from where he's a member of Deathstroke's wide range of villains, who attack the House of Secrets where the Secret Six are located. You briefly see him at the end in a very small panel in the bottom corner. I actually missed them the first time I was reading this. This is actually a really cool arc showing the difference between the villains in the DC universe. That being, some, while aren't good people, they're not the worst people. Like Catman, Scandal Savage, Ragdoll, they're not good people, but they have somewhat morals and will do the right thing if they need to, and in this scenario they definitely need to. Anyways, in the following issue we see Mr. Terrible try to attack Catman, when his back is turned with a knife, but misses, hitting him in the leg instead. By the way, this is the biggest role the character ever gets. I'm not joking. Catman's following line feels like it's implying he's going to kill him. We don't see Terrible again in this fight, but we see him in comics later on, so we know he didn't actually die, but it definitely felt like it was implying he was going to. And since this was first appearance, that would mean the character was initially designed to just be a throwaway villain. He was never intended to be anything more than that, which he would always be, sadly. Mr. Terrible would end up going on to Cameo and Salvation Run, showing he was still alive, but even there his role stayed very short, small, and not really anything to note. The character overall was very much a background gag. One I do find funny, but he could have been more. He could still be more. In fact, I have a pitch we'll get into at the end of the video. Because even though the character becomes a, well, just a recurring background cameo, I still think the character has potential to actually work in a proper setting. Which, by the way, is not me saying that it already wasn't working as a gag, because, like I said, I did find it funny. But I do think the idea could be more than just a gag. He would also return in the 2008 Series 6 run, also ran by Gail Simone in issue 2, appearing at the very end among a group of villains, not doing much but looking concerned. Why does it look like Bolt is about to kill him? Or at least he thinks Bolt's about to kill him. We see another cameo of him in issue 4, a part of the same group of villains led by Bolt. This time at least in a fight, where he's shown to be getting kicked in the face by Tarantula. By the way, that's the only part he's in the fight for, so I'm assuming he's just knocked out after that one kick. Also, this panel Cheshire, I don't know why, but I just found it hilarious due to recent slang meaning of the term cooking, and how she says she can cook. I know it's a perfectly normal thing to say, but after the few months of just hearing that term be used in different contexts, it's just very interesting to read now because I constantly am thinking of that context instead of the normal one. This will also now date the video. Issue 5, Terrible is getting kicked in the face by the Banshee Jeanette. I love that 2 of his few appearances are just him getting kicked in the face. And both times he's not seen in the battle afterwards, implying that that simple kick in the face also took him out this time. He would go on to cameo in a few more stories, but in none of them we would ever get any additional detail on him, and by 2010 it seemed like he became a retired comic joke. And after Flashpoint it seemed like the character had been completely forgotten. However, that would not stay the case. In 2018's Plastic Man issue 5, also written by Gail Simone, she would bring him back, where the new art style by Andriana Mello I think really sharpens him up. Maybe it's just the good art speaking, but I feel like this design deserves more than just a cameo. He really does look pretty cool when he's actually in the focus. Since this cameo is a lot more front and center, while other cameos were definitely in the background. Where's Waldo gotta step up his game? What's interesting is that the character at first comes across like a Gail Simone gag, a joke that she includes as a funny background character here and there in her series. But he would move away from just her to other writers including him in the background. Take Flash issue 797 for 2023 for example, written by Jeremy Adams, where he shows a Flash of the future in which Mr. Terrible cameos, which means that he one day might actually matter. Because he's a part of the DC future apparently. Something that I actually hope is true. Now you might be wondering, why the hell did I make this video about a character who does absolutely nothing but get kicked in the face by women? Well, it's because I think this concept could be a cool thing to develop. As a fan of Mr. Terrific, I would love to see him go against this character and learn what connection there is between the two characters, if there is one, or maybe there isn't, which also could be an interesting story. Perhaps he just was inspired by Mr. Terrific to be a villain. Like a super fan that goes dark. I don't know, that's probably not a good idea, but it could work. Here's my pitch. What if Mr. Terrible was related to the original Mr. Terrific, Terry Sloan? They even share the same color scheme. Both are also Caucasian characters. Perhaps this Mr. Terrible grew up thinking that he'd be the next Mr. Terrific of the next generation, trained to be that, but then BAM! Michael Holt is on the scene, third smartest man on the planet, leader of the JSA, not only carrying Terry's legacy, but evolving it into something to mean so much more than it ever did. You can't deny that Michael Holt is a better known Mr. Terrific than Terry Sloan. In fact, maybe that's why Terrible dislikes Michael Holt so much, because it takes away his something great-grandfather or great-uncle's legacy by making it his own and becoming something more than his whatever relative was. Either way, Terrible becomes bitter, upset feeling like he missed a chance of becoming a hero, turning from terrific to terrible. It's a work in progress. Mr. Terrible's name was also never mentioned, so his last name very much could be Sloan. If I ever wrote a comic, I would include that. DC, include this, just straight up steal the idea from me, because I think it could be a really cool concept to play with in a Mr. Terrific comic. Just the idea of someone hating you. Not because you did anything wrong. Michael Holt did nothing wrong by becoming Mr. Terrific. But to Terrible, he did. Also, Michael Holt is the type of character I think would sympathize with Terrible if that was the case. He probably would still fight him, of course, but he might actually feel bad for him. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy for just making this entire video off of this one idea and background character, but I really do feel like it deserves more attention. The character overall, I think, could be more than just a background gag. But, like I said, as a gag, as a joke, it is a funny one. Now, this is extremely off topic, but I just want to say thank you. My last video on Obsession did amazing. I've grown in subscribers from that video alone to where I think I'm nearly at double what I was last week, which is absolutely insane to me, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. I really enjoy making videos, and I'm really happy that people enjoy watching them. Enough that they decide to stick around, which I'm also extremely thankful for. Anyways, that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!